I'm looking to create a narrative for our story. Life is a journey, and I do believe in order to empower ourselves, we must tackle the issues that hold us back. That's why I created Inquisitive I Am, a show designed to help you live a healthier, wealthier life.
It was bad enough when you got hit in a car wreck. Don't get hit again with a 40% plus lawyer fee. I'm attorney Jerome Carter. Don't get hit twice. Call me today. For nearly 20 years I've handled car wreck cases. I know how to get you a check, and I make sure that your check is larger than mine. That's a promise. It's your case, it's your call. Make it count. Call Carter Law Firm. If you're injured, we'll come to you, because when you hurt, we help.
Welcome, my guest, my friend, one of my best friends, my big brother, Dorian Lee. What's going on, D?
All right, I'll hit where the soundtrack. Okay, good. I appreciate that. No, I'm so happy to be here. So thank you for asking me. I think it'll be an important conversation that we're having. I think it's an important conversation that needs to be had and should have been had, a long time ago. So I'm thankful that you wanted me on.
Yes, I think it's a very important topic. A lot of us stray away from it, or we have conversation in silos. So this is an opportunity for us to put it all out there and ask questions and ponder on this and that. And I don't think any better person to help me figure this out is my big brother Dorian. So I thank you for, saying yes to me, because this is something we need to get into.
No, I appreciate it. I really do.
Yeah. But I do want to first take it back to where you're from, so people can have this sense of, that's
right, so look,
cool.
I laugh all the time because, I always say Mobile, but then I say Pritchard. And then the truth is, it's Whistler. I'm from Whistler, Alabama. And when I say Whistler, everybody, right? Whistler, Whistler. And so, yeah, Whistler, Alabama, of Pritchard. Anything can be suburban about Pritchard, but it's the suburb of Pritchard. They pick up our trash. That's about it. That's I grew up, went to Viger High School. I was at St. Mary's Catholic school for a large portion of my youth until about 7th grade. Went to Trinity Gardens, which is now E.S. Chestang, and then went to Viger High School. So from there, went on to Bishop State Community College, and then the University of North Florida. Got into it my senior year with my college coach, and I came back to Spring Hill where I earned my degree from Spring Hill College. So, it's it. I'm a homeboy. Mobile, I was in Mobile until probably around the age of 29. And then I went to Charlotte as a pharmaceutical rep, and then came to Atlanta, and been here in Atlanta for the last 18 years. So my background, obviously, is player development, basketball player development, which is honest. A large portion of my life has been devoted to developing young athletes on and off of the floor. So, it's important. And this is a topic that I've had conversations with young men and women in our program throughout the years. So, really just, I'm just excited about being able to share some of the stuff that we're talking about, because this is honestly one of the other important avenues in terms of community building, nation building, that is what I believe part of my ultimate life's purpose. So
I beautifully said, because my upcoming book talks a lot about what children see, what we're doing wrong, how things are reflecting on what your children are watching and what they're seeing.
Absolutely.
So the first question I want to ask you tonight is, why is it so important to get relationships right? And especially in our community, why is that important? We need to know.
It's important because the centerpiece of the Black community is the Black family. If we have a fragmented family, we have a fragmented community. And I don't think we understand the importance of that. We are living in this is a new age, and everything is really about living your own individual best life. And what I hear when I hear people talking about living their best life is really hedonism. I don't hear, the living my best life that serves the greater good to those that follow me. It's only about me. And when I think about that, we are on this earth for such an infinitesimally small amount of time that if it's about me, that truly is a sad existence. If the only thing I took care of was me, and that's pretty sad. So for me, we have to focus on having the dialogue primarily between men and women, and what is the true disconnect. And I know the disconnect because I've researched the disconnect. I've watched the disconnect, and we can talk about anecdotal evidence and people saying, well, there's no research. But let me tell you, my anecdotal evidence is a lot larger sample size than most people, right? I have a group that I've been able to watch the unions take place in marriage, and then the dissolving of those unions and divorce. I've seen these things. I've seen the single life and the post-divorce life, and from a large number. And then we have the actual data and research to back up the anecdotal evidence, right, that I have. So, it's an interesting conversation.
Oh, wow. It is. It's interesting to me because you're looking to have a conversation with not only just men, but with both men and women. And I will add of sound body and mind, because I think that matters when you're having these conversations.
Absolutely.
And everything that you spoke on just now, I have experienced it as well. Being married, going through post-divorce, what that looks like, getting my groove back, all of those things I have experienced. And they are phases to each one, to even getting to the point to where I'm ready to date. I'm ready to be married again, even.
Good.
What does that look like for me? So now that my children are watching someone actually treat me right, I think that's very important for them to see, especially having girls. And so now I'm trying to give them what they've never seen before. And hopefully it works to their benefit. Hopefully they can see that, okay, so this is how I'm supposed to be treated in a good fashion. Absolutely. So what opinion or what advice do you give in situations like that?
First of all, I think we have to take a look at the historical damage that was done to our community and why we act out the way that we act out. We talk about slavery, right? The residual effects of slavery. And then we talk about the subsequent Jim Crow. We talk about the CIA-infused crack epidemic that led to the school-to-prison pipeline and prison industrial complex. And when we enter into the 90s, right, and we start talking about the messaging that was being sent out, and that messaging continues to this day. Rap music, media, all of these entities actually played their role in creating a incredible divide in our community. I don't chase them, I replace them, right? Money over bitches. Like this is something where this was a mantra. This is how I lived, because I was listening to other boys who were raised, by women, by the streets, and they really never saw a male role model in order to amplify, right? And so for me, that became very, very important. That was my mantra. And then at the same time, whether we believe it or not, movies like Waiting to Exhale came out, right? And so Waiting to Exhale, which was incredibly entertaining, thoroughly entertaining. I enjoyed the movie. When you really think about it, it had about 6 examples of men, and only one was a good man. Yeah. Now, I want you to think about it. The Allstate dude was married, and Whitney Houston was like, listen, involved with a married man, but ultimately it was the married man's fault, right? Mm-hmm. You got Angela Bassett, of course, who had helped build her husband's company. He left for the white woman, right? Whatever. You had Leon, who was the quintessential good in bed, no good dude. Yeah. And then Leela Rashawn at work and he hit, and then she was doing a presentation and he said something about the presentation and she up there talking, you won't never get none no more, trying to show me up and da. We get down to Gregory Hines. So Gregory Hines, I forgot, because it all goes into this mix. So Loretta Devine had a son who she was, I don't know, was attempting to raise as her husband in a sense. Yes. It's kind of weird, right? Weird. And his dad was gay. Mm-hmm. So the only dude on the entire movie that was worth anything was Gregory Hines, mm-hmm. because he liked the woman with some meat on her bones, mm-hmm. and he told her to let her son go, and so he was the hero of the movie, and everybody else, all the other dudes were terrible.
We were trained.
You don't think that had a effect on Black women?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
You don't think that had an impact on how we viewed Black men? Why do you think the movie was so popular? Because, man, white media couldn't wait to rush this out. This is something else to add fuel to the fire to disrupt the Black family, right? We already got the rap music. Why do you think they pushed that in the stores? Yes. The type of misogyny, the anger, the violence. Why do you think they pushed that, right? None of this stuff is by accident.
Wow.
Right. So the first step is to understand the history, right? But maybe the greatest impact on Black women was the white feminist movement, which was never intended for Black women. It was intended for white women and their men.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that. I've always agreed that movement was not for us at all.
So what we got from it, you know how you get half the information. What we got from it is we don't need no man. Those same white women went home building empires with their husbands. They had some beef, some grievances with their husbands, but it ain't stopped them from building the empire, right?
Right.
We look at Jeff Bezos and a lot of these folks as they get a divorce, right? They get a divorce after they built the billions. The legacy is intact. Then, okay, we just friends now, so we're gonna move on. That's great, but they stay there, right? Mm-hmm. Right? And so, I think we have to really understand where a lot of this stuff comes from. And, for me, it starts with historical understanding and perspective.
That is, the music, something I've harped on is the music. It's called programming for a reason, that's all we listen to. And I said probably about a year or so ago that if you're watching children and they get upset, they can actually repeat every word to a song when they're angry. So that kind of lets you know these are angry words, these are angry thoughts.
Absolutely.
And it's truly portraying what our children should live up to, which is sad. I think it's very sad. So I think the music industry is a prime example of what relationships and how relationships are broken down. I've even said a while back, and still to this day, that, and you tell me if I'm wrong, because I've heard that it's not true. So I'm gonna ask you that growing up, girls are taught to marry. Oh, you gotta do this to marry. And men are taught to be the biggest hoe that they wanna be. So that's a huge disconnect. So you tell me if that's still true today, if it was ever true.
Nicole, let me tell you, I can't relate, right? My parents have been together for 61 years. Now, I don't want to hear, how people say, oh, you don't know what was going on, whatever. You know what? We watched what was going on. My dad never lifted his hand to his mom. My dad never cussed my mom out in front of us. My dad would say he loved my mom, a kiss on it. My mom ain't affectionate at all. I've never, literally, this is no joke. I can't remember the last time my mom said, I love you to me, right? Period, right? So this is another story. Now and I got nothing but mad respect and love for my mama, but she grew up she had a tough upbringing, and that's another story. My dad was the baby in the family, so he always was showered with affection or whatever, and I had an affectionate daddy. My dad, I could hug, I still kiss on my daddy. Now when I come home, I mess with him. He was that dude. But, for me, I never saw anything other than a union, people working together to build something, putting kids through college. My mom's best year ever, with a master's degree, she made $26,000, her best year. his, I think, $40,000. And they built an incredible home in our community, put kids through college. Of course, I had the college scholarships or whatever, but they were able to set themselves up because they were a unit. Now, here's the beautiful thing about it. There was never a time that we could get in between our parents. Now, I'm gonna tell you this. My brother, Frank Lee, my sister, Brandon Lee, she will tell you to this day, it was us against them. They were like, look, our union created you. You ain't breaking us up.
Right.
But see, in this day and age, because of so much childhood trauma, most of our parents have chosen to become friends with their children versus being a steward over the life of their child. So in my house, my dad, his energy was on side chicks, families, nothing. I'm putting my money in my household, right? I can't speak for other people who had side women because that tutelage is going to fall in the lines of, hey, don't ever put all your eggs in one basket, little man, do this. But that too is the example of the trauma that wasn't dealt with that particular father. Mm-hmm. So because of the environment that I grew up in, all of the stuff I talked about with my dad, fidelity, domestic issues, whatever, I've experienced those because I was bucking my upbringing because I was in an environment that's told me you don't need to be no good dude and this and that because these chicks will run you and blah, blah, blah. I was saying, man, you don't need to be out here having a bunch of babies. You don't need to be blah, blah, blah. You need to make sure you're handling your business. He never talked about womanizing, sowing your oats, none of that mess. I ain't never heard it from my dad, right? So it's totally different. So I can't really speak on that, but I do know a large majority of my friends, their fathers have talked about that, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know, my daughter, when I look back, and, it'd be great if she came on and commented, her experience with being, my oldest daughter with being my daughter. I always just kept it real with her. Like even when I had the birds and the bees talk with her, the first words that came out of my mouth was sex is the bomb. Okay. Shit is incredible. I'm talking about shit will have you looking for a dude with a flashlight in the middle of the day. It's that good. It's a huge responsibility that's associated with it. So I didn't just say it was good and this. So she now curious about it. I said, let me tell you, it's a huge responsibility. And I'm not telling you got to wait till you're married. But wait long enough to know that the guy across the bed respects you enough for you to give yourself to that person, right? And so that was my talk to her. It wasn't, save yourself or whatever. Now, ironically, my daughter, who's extremely popular, kind of the center of her group in a sense, kind of, I would consider kind of a leader. And she didn't have sex. And if you knew her environment, it was like, she gonna have a baby by 15. She's gonna have a baby because of where she grew up in that particular environment. But maybe my presence played a role in it because, the data suggests that the involved father is the outcome of both male and female. That's why, again, Nicole, we got to get the family stuff right because a lot of the trauma revolves around the father not being in the home. Yes. Oh, God. That's a lot of the trauma.
We've had this conversation.
Absolutely.
As far as what's missing or what was missing. And I will say, that's what I battle with. My children not having that male role model. I do know that having conversations with the opposite sex or a male role model, they will listen a little bit more because I'm mom. Mom is going to say what she mean what she say, truth. But coming from who they seek, and they're seeking male counterparts, they need to hear certain things from male role models, in my mind, to boost their self-esteem, because they need to know, just because you told me I was pretty means nothing. Like, I'm not going to give you the draws because you told me I was pretty. My dad would tell me that all the time, if that was the case. So it's amazing. And I'm glad you said that the father, and the reason why I'm going to hesitate to say missing is because if you're not married any longer, that's fine. But you still need to interact with the children, interact with them even more so if you have to, especially as they're getting older. You have to stay connected with the children as far as instilling in them what they need so they can nurture what they need to put out there in the world. So knowing that, what advice do you give men who are no longer in the household? How do they continue? Because what I've learned, a lot of men don't know how to parent.
You fight for your kids. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. We have to, this whole entire topic is designed to get me in all kind of trouble with women, period. The entire topic is designed for me to get burned at the stake, right? But I'm going to keep it a buck. Women oftentimes, because of the failing of the relationship, has made it difficult for the man to be involved. It is a fact. It's not, it's not conjecture. It's truth. For me, what nobody keeping me from my kids ever, period. Right? I'm not built like that. And the type of guilt I would have for not knowing or being in my child's life would be, so damaging to me, because I do believe in a family structure, and honestly, had I not been, which is a topic we're going to talk about, alpha male, sigma male, beta male, had I not been doing beta actions as an alpha, I would have had all of my kids in my household, because it would have been with one woman. But, because of that chasing of, and it all comes from traumatic experiences. And I can talk about this one day, but it's all traumatic experiences where, okay, at some point in time, you think the way society has positioned Black men, that our sexual prowess is it. It's that's what we bring to the table. And as long as we can put it down, then we're good. We're okay. And so that was me living out the beta man inside of a true alpha. I know I'm still at that at times, but I do know that was me acting out, trying to seek the validation and approval, which is strictly beta, from society, right? And so, it's important. So my advice is, we have to learn ourselves and understand ourselves, right? I think we do have to spend a little time understanding evolutionary roles, right? The roles we talk about are usually social constructs, what the woman should do, what the man should do. But hell, if you and I are walking as brother and sister, if we're walking in prehistoric times and a saber-toothed lion jumps out, your ass getting behind me and I'm stepping up, because that's evolutionary roles.
Right.
Right. Fast forward to today, if you and I are out hanging out, getting a cup of coffee, chatting, whatever, and somebody pulls out a gun, you're going to jump behind. Naturally, my energy, my presence in a home, you're going to be more nurturing. I don't care if you work a 9 to 5 and the head of the top company in the world, your energy is going to be more nurturing and caring. And that's why it troubles me at times to hear women say, I can be tough on them. It's great. It's great to believe that. But let me tell you, by the age of 13, 14, if my daddy wasn't in the house, I would have ran my house. Right. I was that type of dude. I would have ran my crib. Right? So his presence had me always thinking, damn, I don't want to take this shit. I'm good. Let me just, let me leave this alone. Yeah. Because I can't go there with this dude. Because he was old school when it came to children being children and grown-ups being grown up. In the realm, I was going to get handled like a grown-up, right? So that's the difference. So we got to understand some of these evolutionary roles and understand that polarity is what it's really about. You can't have two masculine energies. You can't have two feminine energies.
No, right? You can't. What I've learned is I'm an alpha female by nature, because that's what I watched my mom do. What I've learned is if I'm involved with an alpha male, Nurturing is the easiest thing to do. Becoming ladylike is the easiest thing to do if I'm allowed to play that role. If I don't have to be that alpha woman at home, then I'm not that alpha woman at home. I've realized when I'm an alpha woman in the home is because, as I even speak in my upcoming book, because I have to play that role. But knowing now, dating any alpha men, I can relax. So your presence in the home as an alpha man allows a woman who is an alpha woman to chill. She don't want to be, or she don't want that to be two masculine energies in the home. She want to sit down and cross her legs and say, "Oh, Dorian got it," or whomever got it. So,
but guess what happens though? So this is what I'm gonna put pressure on you, sis. Okay. All right, I'm gonna put some pressure on you. So if you can be a feminine woman and submissive in a sense, because I think the word, we got to really look up the word submit.
I have no problem with that word.
Right. Submission is not, this evil term devised by some patriarchal society to make and oppress women. Submission. I submit to my purpose. I submit to my family. Mm-hmm. My family includes my wife. My wife submits to the vision of the man in the house. Absolutely. And of the family. So we submit to each other. It's not anything wrong with that. But the question is, if you can be that, then that's what you are. Mm-hmm. So all the other times you're acting, mm-hmm. right? So you're acting as a man, right? I'm not calling you, you must.
Right, I understand.
But acting as a man. So we need to cut the act, right? At times, right? Sometimes we just need to be what we are. The divine femininity controls the man like nothing else on the planet. Mm-hmm. When you are a woman and you allow a man to be a man, you will get every single thing that your heart desires. If you combat a man, you become a man, right? I asked and this is going, again, controversial, but I told my boys, if you ask a woman a question, you say like, well, how do you feel about infidelity, right? And you say like, how do you feel about men cheating, right? And then how do you feel about women cheating? And if they ever utter the words, if a man can do it, I can do it, that's not a woman you really want to be with.
Right.
Right. And the reason being is, I want you to replace that with something else. If a man smokes crack, I should be able to smoke crack. Mm-hmm. So you're going to do something that's detrimental to your existence in order to compete with a man. Women were never meant to be just vessels to be in and out of, to be discarded, you were never, your divine femininity you're not necessarily designed. Now, because of the social construct, because of where we live, because of the messaging, because of all of what goes on around us, we have now adopted these. Right. And to me, it's detrimental. To me, it's been detrimental to cohesive interaction between, man and woman. And I think what people are going to pick up from me, everybody I've ever been with is a strong woman, right?
Right.
But they were strong women.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't strong men.
Right, right.
And I look back at the issues in my relationships. When I had the issues, I only had issues with those that were trying to exert some masculine whatever. And it wasn't anything the more I understood the nature of the man and masculine energy, it wasn't even me combating it from a logical, standpoint or even of awareness. It is evolutionary when masculine energy presents itself, like how I am around my boys and we argue in sports. It's going to be that because it's that much testosterone flying. If I'm having that from a woman, it's going to be some issues, right? So I think, again, going all the way back to what I said about evolutionary roles, the divine femininity and the power of divine femininity and how we've been, through messaging, tricked into believing that you have to act like, you have to have masculine energy in order to get the respect and people ain't gonna treat me right. Well, you know what? I'm interviewing you. First of all, I gotta see, if you fit my needs. Well, let me be honest. The way this thing works, any man, and this is a tough one. Now, Kevin Samuels ain't the first person to say that. I've been saying it the longest. I said a little bit more, it wasn't as tactful when he says women control or have access to sex, men have access to relationships. When you say stuff like that, because I used to say, you can get anybody to F you, you can't get everybody to marry you.
Right, I agree.
Y'all have the power. You can get whoever you want. Y'all have that power. Dude, we ain't that hard. Trust that, right? But to get them to want to be with you, to even care after the act is over, is something totally different. Yeah. And from the knee-jerk, angry response, Nicole, is usually, well, I got a bunch of guys that, I could be with if I want to, but them ain't who you want to be with.
Oh, not at all.
That's why you ain't with them.
Right. I've always said we choose boyfriends, but men choose their wives. I totally believe that, with all due respect to all the ladies. I believe that because that's what we anticipate once we feel like we've selected who we select. But I got a buck at you, big bro. This acting, and I'm gonna say this because I think you're just not familiar, because you've been an alpha young man, an alpha. You've just been an alpha male all your life. So I just don't think you can relate to this. So I'm gonna say that just to say the acting, what I really need society, and I'm gonna say men, to understand is when women such as myself feel the need to step out of her feminine role to save the home or whatever is going on that's broken in the home, that she constantly has to be the one because no one else is doing it. Let me say that. She's not elbowing anybody, move out my way. She's like, okay, let's see what's going to happen. And if it doesn't happen, then that woman has to step out of her feminine role, especially if she has children, to fix whatever's broken, to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of. And after doing that so many times, she does feel she becomes that man. She Absolutely. Feels she is the protector at that point. The pinpoint now is not the man, it's the woman. And that's not because she wants to play that role. As you say, acting. I don't know a woman that wants to play that role. Now, in agreement with you, I think you would agree, I don't like the independent status quo. I'm an independent woman. I don't like that.
Yeah. But I don't need a man. I choose that. Okay, well, if you don't need, now let me tell you, and I'm talking about high value brothers. Now, if you want to, I'm talking about, I have an incredible circle. The biggest turnoff, this is a consensus. The biggest turnoff is when a woman says, I don't care how fine, how bad, I don't need a man, really.
I hate that.
Once, I'm telling you, you on borrowed time. Once you make that statement, I'm telling you, because that's part of our evolutionary role, is to be needed. We want to be needed, right? It's part of what makes us who we want to protect and provide. Absolutely. So when we don't get that opportunity, or when it's discounted, like I it's cool, I could take it, leave it. You know what? It's just a turnoff.
Yes.
It's an absolute turnoff. But I'm gonna buck back at you. Now, listen, we talking about women today. I'm harder on dudes than I am on women.
Okay.
Right? But I do believe the greatest threat to the Black family is through the Black woman, because the messaging that's being given, right, contaminates the thinking, which further erodes, right? It's been some kickback, no good Black men, ain't no good Black men, ain't no good Black men, ain't no good Black men, but everybody I know is a good Black man. And the crazy thing about it, it's many women who are saying this that know good Black men, but keep saying it ain't no good Black men. And we keep saying this, we start to believe. Now, is the prison industrial issue a huge issue in our community? Absolutely. But if 1 in 4 Blacks are in jail, right, that means 3 or 4 ain't.
Right.
But we always focus on the negative as if it's the majority. That's not the majority. If you know the data says that Black fathers outperform all other fathers outside of Asian American fathers, everybody. But guess how the question is, how many times did you, keep your child this week? Get these questions. Or do you live in a house with your child? They don't talk about how many times you FaceTime, how many times, you've dropped off packages and been to school events and basketball and practices. They don't talk about that. So when you look at it, they're taking sheer numbers of X amount of unmarried households with children, then the father is absent. No, boss. Black men perform at a high level. Right. Now, our personal experiences always dictate the way we address those things, Nicole. If we have personal experiences with baby daddy drama or baby mama drama, it affects the way we look at it, right? I never had the baby mama drama because it went about her anyway, right? And I was going to be able to do whatever to the I'm telling you, to the highest court in the land. It ain't going to be no time, you get 2 weeks. Anytime I want to see my children, it's going to be in writing. That we can, anytime I want to see my children, I can see my children.
Right. And I agree with that. Also wholeheartedly, that's something that I never stopped. Regardless of what happened, I always was for, whenever you want your children, get your children. I had nothing to do with that relationship. If anything, keep that relationship intact. And I know there are a lot of women who do that. And I guess I want to understand, but it's hard for me to understand, because this is when you start now to break down the mindset of your children, when you're now fighting over who sees who or when I can see them. Or I've never done that in my role as a mother. That's something that I never did. And I'm trying to understand, what do you suggest that, and I'll say women do, because I think it's detrimental when they do things to stop the father from seeing the children out of anger or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, but that's part of the chaotic nature of feminine energy, right? It's an emotional energy. And this is why I often say, as much as I used to believe that anger, me throwing up my hands ready to fight, was masculine, it was actually emotional energy, which is feminine. So it appears to be masculine, but it's really emotion, right? And that kind of goes back to the alpha, sigma, beta, which as soon as I answer this question, we're gonna really kind of dive into, so we won't, for the sake of time. Understand, just for a second, take themselves out of the role of being hurt. Now, it's very difficult in the midst of being hurt, because your only thing in the midst of being hurt is to hurt someone else. But you can't hurt that dude without hurting your child. You can't. So you got to understand, every move you make against the father is a move against your own child.
Yeah.
Right. And once you understand that and realize that, then it's easier for you to navigate the process of coexisting or co-parenting, all of that stuff. I almost want to throw up talking about, because I just, if you think about what's out there on the other side, I'm not saying in the nature of abuse, in the nature of whatever. I'm talking about people making decisions in the of relationships. It's an ebb and flow to relationship. People don't ever leave folks right here on top. They always leave people in the valley, right? And I made a post about this a couple of weeks ago about if I had no nature, like understanding of the nature of seasons. Right now, I would be out chopping trees down because I thought they're dead. But in a few short months, they're going to blossom again, right? Grass is going to grow. It's going to be back. And we're going to have a beautiful spring, a beautiful summer, fall. Things get a little rough. It's relationships. Winter, it can be really cold, barren. But if we continue to just move towards the ultimate mission, it'll be solved. So a lot of this stuff can be solved on the front end by understanding what relationships really are about, these unrealistic, hedonistic views of relationships, my best, and I gotta be happy. Every time I hear that, I'm saying like, what are you doing? If you gotta be happy, that means it's all about you. What are you doing to offer up anything to make somebody else happy? It's always some unilateral conversation that most people are having. They never have the bilateral conversation. Like, what am I going to do in order to make sure that this other person is serviced, right? The servitude, because you're probably way more well-read than I am. So Stephen Covey talked about independence or dependence first. So dependence first, independence, interdependence.
Yeah.
Interdependence is the highest level.
Mm-hmm.
But
women
oftentimes, and men to a lesser extent, independent, like this is I'm independent. Interdependence, being able to coexist with your peers, with your coworkers in a relationship, is the highest level of individual existence.
It is. It is.
Not independence.
It is.
You follow what I'm saying?
I definitely follow what you're saying. I mean, collectivism is the only way. We've lived off of individualism for so long, and we still don't realize we hadn't gotten it right. So the interdependence part is definitely something that we have to focus on, because it's all about unity. It's all about collectivism and building empires. You can't do it by yourself. So
that's profound. Right. We have, isn't it amazing though? And I won't even get on the political side of this, but isn't it amazing how we continue to do the same thing? And every time it pops up, it's like, we're tired of this. It's time to, and this happened 30 years ago, bro. This ain't nothing. This is the exact same thing. You just, because you don't have any historical context, you don't know that what's happening right now has been happening, right, because it's new, right? And so for us as men, let me tell you, now, after all of this I just said, you know who controls all of this?
Who is that?
The man.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So if the man is doing what he is supposed to do, all of this other stuff falls in line, right? Mm-hmm. And so the reason I continue to talk about polarity, right? Balance, and people understanding that roles are important, right? Mm-hmm. If I ask you right now, what is more powerful, the positive or the negative charge of a battery?
Oh, absolutely. The positive, I would hope. No. Or is it the negative? Now that I'm thinking about it.
You can't exist without the other. It's a polarizing equivalent.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Mm-hmm. See, we get caught up into believing one is better than the other when both are needed in order to exist.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So that, years ago, that's why I use the term polarizing equivalence. When I listen to a far left person and a far right, they're the same people.
Yeah.
Unyielding, uncompromising, but they have different views, mm-hmm, but the way they act is identical.
Identical, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right? So you can't see it in the other person. So again, it's important for us to understand that polarity is what makes things balanced. That's balance. Negative, positive charge, that's the battery. Without one, it's no battery.
No battery, right. What we're gonna do, because we need this, we're gonna do a part 2. We have to do a part 2 with this. So stay tuned, hold your horses. Don't y'all go anywhere. We'll be right back.